Welcome to another episode of the Lone Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Clemenson, and today we have Sion Cousins. Sion, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I want to move into the third part of this episode, which is around the aspirations and discipline part of the coaching you do. Mm-hmm. You did a great session with our crew last month, just before you went away to do the marathon. And you did a whole 2-hour thing with the group around aspirations and discipline, and it was phenomenal. I've got the sheet here, and I don't want to go into all of it because it's 2 hours worth of content, but there were some great exercises within that. So, what is your take on that? I mean, obviously you've got your aspirations are huge. I think that you're a real poster boy for want to do something, set a goal, go and achieve it. So you do walk the talk. There's a lot of coaches, mental coaches out there who are trying to be inspirational in coaching, but they haven't got a lot to show for themselves, other than maybe they've come out of a bad situation. Everyone's story is different. But I think for you, and particularly for the recruitment world, we're all very goal-oriented. Mm-hmm. We're all very outcomes-focused. We're all very we work really hard, we love what we do, but we do get paid well for what we do, and then we want to know what we're going to be doing next with that. And that's kind of I think that is 101 recruitment ethos.
Yep.
There's obviously a lot more layers to it, and as everyone's different. But look, aspirations and discipline, I think if anyone can talk about it, it's you. Walk us through that type of program you would run, because we all walked away. I always ask the crew, how was that day? What did you get out of it? And hands down, that was one of the best sessions we've ever had.
Well, thank you. That's amazing to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm glad they got value out of it.
Mm.
For me, aspirations is sort of interchanges with goals. And I like to use aspirations because people tend to think bigger when you say that word.
Yeah.
When you say goal, they become sort of closed off and a little bit smaller focus. When you say aspirations, all of a sudden they start to think about their life.
Mm.
So I like the word aspirations in that aspect. I think what a lot of people do as you get older is that you lose the ability to figure out what your goals are in life. Mm. And they might know what their relationship goals are. They might know what their work goals are, but having the two maybe align is very difficult for people as well. Mm. So what we did together is we went back and we looked, and this is coming from counseling background, we reflected on your life. There is a whole lot of evidence in your life up to this date that you can use to then attach in the future to a goal or an aspiration or whatever it may be. So what we did is we went back in throughout everyone's lives and we figured out what was the top things that made them happy. And then we got them to dive really deep into it and say, who were you with? What were you wearing? What was the weather like? We really try to bring it to front of mind. And then what we do is we see the patterns across what you've done with your life and what makes you happy. And we try to look for patterns, what that is. If it's all based around family, then we understand this is a big core value. So then maybe if we're setting a goal to do with work, how is that goal going to improve your time with your family or the ability to provide for your family or whatever it is? Whereas if we don't know that one of your core values is your family, then we can't attach that to any of your goals. And we might give you some KPIs to hit and we say, oh, you got to close X amount of deals. And you say, well, that's not really exciting for me. Yeah. And I say, well, if we close this amount of deals, then you get to spend 2 weeks with your kids and you get to choose anywhere in the world that you get to go. And then all of a sudden it's just a little reframe, but really helps to understand what has made you happy in the past.
Yeah.
Find that evidence, take that evidence, attach it to your aspirations in the future. All of a sudden, very intrinsically motivating, a lot easier to continue work towards it.
I loved it. And there was a little exercise we did, which was essentially a X and Y axis graph, and along the bottom was time, and down the vertical was peak happiness, really happy, not so happy sort of thing. And essentially you said close your eyes and start at the beginning of your life, in the middle, and just plot on the chart. Like when you're 5, were you happy, were you sad, were you down? And just essentially all the way through your life, when you're 10, when you're 11, when you're 12, just plot all the major things in your life. Oh, okay, when what was the most exciting thing you think of when you were growing up, and did that make you feel great? And then were there anything that was really down and depressive, whatever? You go through it, and then when you open your eyes, you look at it, you go, oh, wow. That was a hugely beneficial exercise I've actually gone back and done it again because you forget. You forget points in your life and you go, oh, I forgot about that. And you think about it and you go, I want to weave that in because you want to see what makes you feel the way you feel, right? And as you say, you can then objectively look back and go, I'm most happiest around my friends doing X, Y, Z. Or I'm most happy, all my happy points are around people, friends and family. Or my depressive states are always to do with just like, I don't know.
Uncertainty, feeling unsafe.
Whatever. And there's always patterns, right?
Yeah.
I found that a really, really valuable exercise.
It's an incredible exercise to do to give you a very, very top line, surface level look at what are the most valuable things in your life to date. So there is exercises where you can dive deeper. As for a first exercise to do in a group that's quite private, no group sharing, for you to look down and see that, it's a really great one to do. A lot of people tend to do it and focus on the bottoms. So there's sort of two things to do there. I always focus on the happiest things, top 3 happiest things in your life. What were they? Why did that pen go up? And then the second thing that we didn't go through, but an exercise that you can do, is when you're at your lowest point, what made that line go up? So in there's a lot of answers on how you can bring yourself, because that line isn't going to continue to go up. You're going to, in your life, continue to go down at some point. Understanding the things that bring you out of that is just as important. So I don't necessarily focus on the bottom points, but what brought you out of that bottom point to go higher. And it might be a little up kick, but what is that?
But gets you going, right?
What is that? Find that. There's evidence there. There's proof there. That's your life. That works for you. We know it works for you. Might not work for anyone else.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very strong exercise to do.
I love that. And you keep talking about proof. Like and when you're talking about aspirations and disciplines, the challenge everyone will have, particularly when you set high aspirations, is that self-doubt. Everyone has it. Like, Jesus, that's Everest. I've never done Everest. Yeah, but you've walked. You've put a foot in front of the other. Being able to go back and go, you've done smaller mountains. You've done this. You've done that. This is just an extension of that. You can at least get halfway up because momentum creates momentum, right? And so you always talk about latching on to past victories. I call it, I've done episodes on this before, the yellow post-it note of courage, where, and it was my mate back when we both started in sales, and he coined it. He goes, I've got a post-it note, and I just write down the 5 or 6 things I've done that are freaking awesome at this job, so that when I've got a tough call, I look at it and I go, I'm fucking awesome. And he gets on the call and he nails it. It's my yellow post-it note. It's the same thing, right?
I love it. It is the same thing. I think as you get older as well, and I continue to say that because we start to dull these things down as we get older. So when I work with people in the 50s and 60s, it's much harder for them to go write that post-it note to really fire themselves up. But it is just as important, if not more important, the older you get, that you continue to do that. And when we're talking about evidence, what people struggle with is recency bias. You might have missed the last 3 calls that you made, but 5 years ago, you were killing it.
Right.
And what happens is those most recent calls become your new reality of like, I haven't landed anything in so long. Whereas that's not the case. We have evidence in the past that you're capable of doing incredibly good things. You need to understand that as a bigger picture. Whereas people only take the last month, 2 months, or even year. What have I achieved in the last year? Nothing. I feel worthless.
Right.
Like, what have you achieved since you left school?
Yeah.
Where are you now in your life? And then they're the things that I want people to focus on. Bigger picture, not so much recency biased, because that will really, if you're on a good run, it's great to feed off that momentum. But usually the people that I'm talking to are stuck a little bit.
Yeah.
And their recency bias is maybe in the last year that they feel very stuck where they are. They don't know the way forward, whereas they're only looking at 12 months. Look into your entire past. There's so much knowledge there that we know works for you. Extract it and let's use it. Put it in the future.
I love that.
I like the post-it note.
Little yellow post-it note of courage. It's quite visual.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what a yellow post-it note is.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel significant to have a post-it note, but it's so powerful. Like, it's something so, like, if you had a poster on your wall about all the good things that you did, that sort of doesn't have the same effect. Having a little crappy yellow post-it note
That's it.
I really
and
like
it can
that.
be, and it can be it can be created at any point. Like if you're on the run and you're like not even at your desk, I haven't got my post-it note and you need a little sugar hit. It's a sugar hit, right?
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. And even just rewriting it reiterates it, right?
I like that a lot.
No, I think that's all so valuable. A couple of things come to mind when you're talking for me and recruiters is that the amount of times, particularly in the past, and I think I've overcome it now, but my pipeline would dry up. Like you have a really good run and you get to the end of it and then you look and you go, I've got nothing else happening. I've got to start from scratch. And I used to have this feeling of, I'll never do another deal again. It was so bizarre. Like I do 5-6 a month. To think in that moment, because there's nothing there, that I'll never do it. It's ludicrous. It's stupid. But my brain goes there, right? And it kept going there. Every time, like you go, no, that's fine. And you build the pipeline, make your placements, whatever. And I'm a really consistent builder. I have done for 18 years. It's just my style. I'm not like the boom and bust sort of worker. I've just always been quite consistent. So I think maybe that's what it is. It feels like I'm exposed. Like there's nothing there. My belief system is you're a consistent builder. But when I started realizing that was happening, not just at my desk, but when I used to play music, you'd finish a few tracks. You go, I've just written 3 tracks in this big thing. I've got nothing I'm working on at the moment. And your brain goes, I'll never write a song again. And I've just, this feeling I get when I have nothing in the tank is so interesting. But the work I've done is what you're saying, like going back and going, you've been here before. And that's actually when you write your best stuff because you're not distracted writing other things. That's when you actually and now my resolve is to go, when you've got nothing and your brain goes, I'll never do it again, think, great, you've got time to actually strategize and think, what's the next move?
And that's a massive reframe.
Yeah.
What you just said there. That's what we consider a reframe.
Right.
Is taking that recency bias of the pipeline's dried up immediately to hold on, in the past, this is when I've done my best work. But the only way you understand that is if you have a look at all the evidence in the past, not the recency biased of your pipeline's dried up, but that you've been through that 10, 15 times before. Then you've got the confidence, then you've got the evidence that you're going to be able to do it again and again and again.
Yeah. Look, I might park it on that. We've done 3 episodes in one sitting here, which is a rarity if you listen to this podcast. But there's so much gold to extract. So thank you so much for jumping on, Sean.
My absolute pleasure.
For anyone at home, I have invited Sean onto this podcast because he brings such incredible value. If any of you think that there's more to explore with him, reach out to him. Absolute bang for buck. He's going to be putting his prices up soon because his demand's gone through the roof and I'm in his ear going, you're not charging enough for the value you bring. Get on now. Reach out to him in the next week and just mention this podcast. And I'm getting pointed to look at this camera now. Mention this podcast and he'll do you a good rate. He's in Sydney. He can do that face-to-face, but I do know you like to prefer to do it over video. He's a wealth of experience and wealth of gold. So all we have time for you today. As always, like, share, subscribe. It really helps us grow. As always, have an amazing day. May all your deals come true.